I remember this girl ended up actually walking up to the teacher's desk, and out of nowhere, she decided to bend over and start smelling his feet as he was grading our tests. I'm not gonna lie, but 100% people in that class and me knew that this girl was obsessed with our teacher. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back when I was in my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, I was the type of kid to play video games all the time, stay home, but at the same time, go out and once in a while, go meet up with girls and do the devil's tango, since I was a player. But I remember one time in my grade 11 year, I had a class called biology, where basically we learn about the human anatomy and all things life, I guess. But I remember there was one life form in that classroom that was one of the most interesting women ever. And this girl, I'm not gonna lie, at first when I first saw her in my biology class, I thought she was pretty attractive. But with every attractive girl you meet, there's always some sort of crazy in them. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember when I entered inside that classroom for the first time, I ended up seeing her and I thought she was actually really good. So I decided to walk up to her and kind of like introduce myself, but it was very obvious after a while, she really wanted nothing to do with me. It was like I was getting in the way of her basically wanting to learn biology, even though class hasn't even started yet. And I decided to basically leave her alone and sit down. When I sat down in the seat, we ended up seeing the teacher walk in for the first time, and when we saw him, he was actually a pretty decent guy. He wasn't weird, he wasn't ugly, nor was he an old man that basically would tell us tall tales. He was just a genuine dude that just wanted to teach us basic things about biology, which I'm not gonna lie, all of us in the class enjoyed. But one thing I started to realize was that when I looked over at the girl that I tried introducing myself to that was pretty attractive, I started to notice she would stare at the teacher very oddly. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, Bubba, she's probably just learning. Like, what do you mean she's staring at the teacher oddly? And as much as I thought that was the case, I am not gonna lie, even when he wasn't teaching, just sitting down, instead of her head being on the paperwork that we were supposed to do, she would just keep staring at him. It got to the point where I remember the teacher even stood up and noticed that she was staring and would walk up to her and say, I see you looking over at me. Is there anything you need help with? Oh, no, I'm totally fine. I'm just, I was just looking over at you for some reason. I don't know. She started to sound really nervous, but at the same time, I had no idea why. Like, it was just our teacher. If you need help, just ask him. That's why he's there. That's what he's actually paid to do. But I remember the teacher ended up going back to his desk, and that was basically it. Until something insane happened later, where I remember when the bell rang and class was over, we all ended up walking out of the classroom, and as I was walking out, I remember I was behind the girl that was basically the super attractive chick that I thought was really good looking. And I remember as I was walking behind her, I remember I saw her phone was out, and she was searching up the teacher on Facebook. Yeah, don't know what she was doing on the teacher's profile, but that's really weird. Especially like, if you're in high school, like you don't really want to search up your teachers and like, get into their personal lives, because that's not what they're there for. They're there to just answer questions and to tell us things that we're never going to use in the future. But this girl, for some reason, she was doing some like in-depth research on our teacher that was going on, and honestly, it was super, super weird. So as we were walking out, I remember I decided to basically tap her on the shoulder and say, so what do you think of our teacher? Wait, what? Why would you ask me that, Bubba? Because I see you're on his Facebook profile on your phone. Oh, I'm just doing some background checks. I do it with all teachers. Just don't worry about it and don't say anything. I remember that moment she ended up leaving, and I found it very odd. I remember when lunchtime came around, I ended up meeting up with the boys in the school cafeteria, and when we all sat down together, I remember telling them about this like weird chick in our classroom, and a lot of them started to look at me really weird because they thought what this girl was doing kind of seemed pretty stalkerish. Which, to be fair, and girls, if you're listening, which I don't know if you guys are, you guys know that when it comes to figuring out things about people on the internet, you guys are like FBI agents. Like, it's actually kind of crazy how much they find out just by going through our profiles. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember later on that day, I ended up heading towards my locker to go pick up some books for my next class. And as I was walking towards my locker, I remember I ended up seeing the girl going back into the biology classroom for some reason. And when I looked over in the window to see what was going on, I saw she was talking to the teacher once again. Now, I thought maybe she had a question about the homework and stuff, but on the first day, like, really? Do you really want to show that you're that dumb? But then one of the craziest things happened where I ended up seeing her actually reach her arm out and put it on his thigh. And the teacher instantly stood up and was like, I gotta get to a meeting. And when he walked out of the classroom, he ended up seeing me watching, and he looked over at me and said, Bubba, I know what it looked like in there, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what's going on with her, but I've got to go report this. I remember the teacher ended up leaving, and right behind him, like 10 seconds later, was the girl. She looked over at me and said, wait, Bubba, what did he say to you? Did he say anything about me? What? No, he just said he'll see me me tomorrow. I didn't really want to say what he was actually doing because, well, it was none of her business. And on top of that, I didn't know what this girl was capable of. And this girl ended up walking away afterwards. I remember the next day of school, when I entered inside my biology class, I was basically prepared for anything. And I really wanted to see what was the update on basically this weird chick and the teacher, because it was fairly obvious that something really odd was going on. And I remember when I sat down, the same thing happened again. This girl would just keep staring at the teacher, being really weird and being her really odd self. It was fairly obvious at that point that this girl was like majorly obsessed. Like, it got to the point where I decided to put 2 and 2 together and think, yeah, this girl is actually crazy. But what she ended up doing next honestly made me really disgusted by her, because I remember what this girl ended up doing was when the teacher was handing out a homework assignment for us to do, as he was walking by the girl that was obsessed with him, she decided to take a photo of our teacher's peach and basically save it on her phone. At that moment, I was super weirded out, and I saw this all go down, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should call her out on it. I didn't know if I should, you know, basically tell her, hey, yo, that's not cool. Like, I didn't know what to do. And right afterwards, I remember one of the girls that was sitting behind her ended up looking over at me thinking, yo, like, what's going on with this girl? She's so weird. And I couldn't agree more. It got to the point where I was pretty stressed out. But honestly, once again, it was really none of my business, nor do I want to get in trouble for like the first 2 days of me being in this classroom. So I remember a couple minutes went by, and then out of nowhere, I ended up seeing the girl that sat behind the obsessed chick stand up, and she actually went over to the teacher and asked her to talk to him outside. I remember the teacher looks over at the girl and says, yeah, sure, here, lead the way. And this girl and the teacher ended up actually leaving the classroom. At that moment, the girl that was obsessed with the teacher ended up clenching her fists and slamming her desk on the table right as he left the classroom with this girl. And no joke, everyone in the classroom just started staring at each other thinking, what is this girl on? And that's when this girl ended up doing the most craziest thing that took things way too far, because she ended up standing up, going over to the teacher's desk and smelling his seat and smelling his shoes that he had left for PE class, because this teacher was apparently also a PE teacher. We were all super weirded out, and one of the guys in the classroom ended up looking over at her saying, yo, bro, what are you doing over there? I remember the girl started panicking, and she's like, oh, nothing, don't worry about it. And right as she was about to leave the desk, this girl does the most bizarre thing where she actually ended up stealing the teacher's underwear that was in his duffel bag. Yeah, literally stealing the teacher's underwear. Like, I don't know who does that, but I was super grossed out. And I remember everyone else just started looking at each other in the classroom again, thinking, what is this girl on? At this point, I remember the teacher ended up walking back in, looking at all of us look at each other, and was super confused on what was going on, to the point where he walked up in front of the classroom and said, is everything all right in here? What's going on, guys? And I remember the one person to speak up was the girl that was obsessed with him, saying, oh, nothing. I guess they're all like close to finishing the homework. At that moment, we all just stayed silent because once again, it was the second day of biology. We didn't want to say anything weird. And right as the bell rang and we thought all the madness was over, things got even worse. Because I remember later on that school day at lunch, right as I walk up to the boys in the cafeteria, apparently all the boys were sharing a photo around in the school that was apparently a photo of a girl basically beating her, I don't really know what to say, but basically doing the devil's tango with herself in the school public bathroom, and on top of that, sniffing the teacher's underwear. Yeah, I really did not know what to say when everyone saw this video being shared throughout the school. I remember instantly a lot of people were looking around in the school looking for this girl and looking for the person that shared the video in the first place. Honestly, super rude, by the way, super invasive in privacy, which no one should be doing. But honestly, knowing that this girl did this really was bad. It got to the point where actually, funny enough, the teachers and principal got a hold of the video and they figured out who posted it, and that person got expelled. But not only that, the next day when I got to school, I ended up seeing the girl that was obsessed with the teacher, and she was apparently really sad. She was actually crying in the classroom when I entered in my biology class. But when everyone thought she was crying because she got caught in 4K doing that in the bathroom with the teacher's underwear, apparently, and I don't know how she already knew about this, but the teacher for our biology class also got changed into another teacher. And that's apparently the real reason why she was crying. She did not care that she got caught in 4K, and she said it was normal. And funny enough, even to this day now, she actually does OF, which was, yeah, no surprise there. Maybe one day I'll have her on stream, but if you guys do want more stories like this, then follow for more crazy stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.